You know, a lot of people didn't see this coming. Yeah, it's been called the most shocking upset in the history of presidential politics. Our new president-elect is Donald J. Trump. So, how'd the evening go for y'all?
Well, we were on Lifetime last night,
Right.
and I was slowly getting drunk, is what happened to me.
Were you really?
Yes, she was.
Not really.
This is just in. Florida went the other way. I'm just kidding.
You know, it was a rough night for everybody, I think. You know, we're worried. The people are worried, you know. Okay, he's the president. Now what? We're watching you, okay?
Yeah.
What scares me the most, I don't know what scares all the rest of you the most, is that not since George W. Bush has there been a White House, a Senate, and a House of Representatives all from the same party. And then the FBI has stuck its nasty little nose in the middle of this. Plus the Supreme Court, who knows where that's going to go. So the only checks and balances we have are us, the View. That's it.
That sounds great in theory, but one of the things he did was he blocked media out of things. They weren't even allowed to go on his plane.
Yeah, but we're not going on his plane. We're going to stay right here and talk.
Yeah, but remember, within the party, and I've been talking about this a lot, within the Republican Party, there are such bold differences. You have a libertarian wing of the party. I've always said, how does John McCain and Rand Paul wind up in the same party? They disagree fundamentally on foreign policy issues. I mean, Hillary Clinton was far more hawkish in her speech than Donald Trump was. So I think there are a lot of checks still. I think the Republican Party is trying to figure out who they are and what they stand for. And Donald Trump will want to do some things that people in that party will not approve of and will stand up against. And they will fight for other things that he necessarily doesn't represent. So just because something says Republican doesn't mean that there's a consensus on issues. I can say that for sure.
We'll see.
Plus, you're here. You're here to take him on every minute of the day.
That's right. That's right. You know, and I'm already on his enemies list, as are you, Whoopi. So.
Last thought. The only thing that I think the scary part for me was maybe being caught off guard that I wasn't in touch with the country I live in, and that maybe I am in a bubble when critics come out on social media and say, you don't know what the world's about. Sadly, now I woke up and I thought, maybe I don't. Like, it really was like a punch in the gut, you know.
I have to say, my heart is beating so fast. I'm a little nervous to even speak today. I honestly didn't think I'd be sitting on this side of it this morning.
You thought she was going to win?
I didn't think Donald was going to win.
No one.
And I can't say that I'm upset about it. I know that over half of America voted him in and are happy that he's there. And yet, I'm in this room with a lot of people that don't seem to be happy about it. And although there are so many things, the way that he has spoken and talked about people that I absolutely do not agree with, I was a person that voted on policy. And so in that sense, I am happy with the result. And yet, if anything, I hope, no matter which side you are on, it brings all of us as a people to a horizontal posture, that it brings us to our knees, our face to the floor, that we pray for our country, that we pray for him, whether you think he could turn this upside down, or you're praying that he will uphold the positions that he said he would. I pray that we come together for that in humility, because God says when we humble ourselves.
Well, yeah, God says a lot of wonderful stuff. He really does. And I like God a lot. But I have to say that given the bigger picture of what Donald Trump represents, it is not so comfortable for me. Because not only does he now threaten how things are going to be done with kids of color, with women's rights, with my right to decide what is right for my body, not what somebody else says what is right. That for somebody, not just my rights about my body, but, you know, my friends' children are afraid because this fool has said, and I know he's the president, but for me, when you scare children by saying you're not going to let them stay in the country, you're going to separate them out, children don't know what you're talking about. They hear these things, and it's crazy. And this is a bigger picture. This is bigger than him. This ripples out in so many different, affects gay folks, gay marriage, transgender people. This has huge effects. Whether we are a nation who believes in people's rights as they are constitutionally guaranteed, whether we're a nation that believes in the rights as God has guaranteed, whatever you believe, no child should be afraid that their parents are going to be taken away because they're Muslim or because they're Mexican or because they're black. No kid should ever have to deal with that. And that, to me, is an issue.
And that's why I pray for unity, and I do believe that God is sovereign and can use the most unlikely and unimaginable people to change things. And if this 4 years doesn't go the way that the American people hope for, that voted him in, then I pray it's a kick in the pants that we all find a candidate that comes together for a more common ground for all of us over the next 4 years.
Well, what would be great? Yes, go ahead. Yes. You know, and all those things are great. But for people who don't have a relationship with God, that is your relationship, or anybody else's relationship, what do they do?
I think they wait to see what he does, because a reminder to everyone is this man has been on both sides of many issues. He was pro-choice, then he was pro-life. He was supporting government-run health care, and now he's opposing Obamacare. So my concern with him was we really don't know what he's going to do. I don't think he's going to be some conservative warrior in there.
Listen, I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about
who he's going to hire,
who he's going to put around him. What I've seen around him gives me pause. What I see is stop and frisk coming back. What I see are things that I don't want to see anymore. But people didn't think about that. They voted their conscience and their issue, and, you know, you get what you deserve. We got what we deserve. A lot of people voted in amendment, and we'll see what happens.
You know what I learned?
What did you learn?
I learned that, as usual, men can get away with anything, and women can get away with nothing. That's what I learned. Unbelievably divisive, bigoted, racist, homophobic, against handicapped people, against John McCain, and yet he won. She made some mistakes, but not like that.
But that's not what they were voting on. People were looking at their Obamacare, their health insurance costs skyrocket. They were looking at the fact that they can't put food on the table.
They were looking at on Obamacare to put him over the edge.
22% hike.
You know what?
Let's see.
I want to see what he's going to do next, because he promised that he's going to repeal Obamacare and put in something else. Now, I like his people to remember. He once said he believes in single payer. So let's see. You know what that is? Socialism.
It is. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Like Bernie said.
You know what? It happened.
He's not going to do anything he says.
Well, if he doesn't, we can kick his ass out.
He's going to build a wall of...
You know, there is such a thing called impeachment, you know. But you know, look, we still have to put food on the table. We still have to go to work every day. We still have to feed our kids. And, you know, we've walked through these fires before. This is not the first time this has happened.
And here's the good news. Comedians are going to have a ball.
You'll look at a video of Snoop Dogg loving Trump, but then he get in the office and now they don't love him. Like, Trump is one of rap's favorite people.
Kanye West must have some power, because you probably saw I doubled my African American poll numbers. We went from 11 to 22 in 1 week. Thank you, Kanye.
Kanye West, Donald Trump revolution continues. West professing his love for President Trump, as you just heard on TMZ, hitting President Obama for failing Chicago and saying this about slavery.
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. So prison is something that unites us as one race, blacks and whites being one race, that we're the human race.
So it set the internet on fire this week, but it won't be the last we hear from Kanye. Get this. The president reportedly agreeing to host a White House summit on race with him and other athletes, as well as some artists and maybe some others in between. Joining us right now, Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell and political commentator extraordinaire Wendy Osefo. What a week it's been for race. A bit of a surprise that Kanye West is leading it. Wendy, for you, what do you get out of this dialogue? And would you like to see it continue at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Well, I think that the dialogue that Kanye West is perpetuating is very, very dangerous, and we have to underscore that. For him to sit here and say slavery was a choice is one that just negates all of history and all of the evidence of history. Slavery was not a choice, and if he's talking about mental slavery, then there are individuals, if you look at history, like Nat Turner, like Harriet Tubman, who rebelled against slavery. So he has no foundational basis for this argument. Furthermore, if we're going to have a summit about race at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that'll be a great thing. But for the life of me, I do not understand why every time we come to issues affecting black and brown people, we bring together athletes, we bring together artists. Why is it that we do not bring together scholars who are known in this field, whether it's Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, Dr. Greg Hart, Dr. Imani Perry, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill? There are individuals who have studied race, who have studied politics. We are not minstrel shows, and we should not be represented by individuals who are not versed in this space.
Great point. And if it's athletes and artists, it's a virtual waste of time. Gianno, first off, your reaction to Kanye's comments.
Well, of course, I agree with Wendy. Slavery was not a choice, and I can also speak to the individuals who did make choices to free themselves. We talk about the 250 rebellions that took place, including Nat Turner, including Harriet Tubman, who led free over 1,000 slaves, and those that freed themselves from many plantations across the country. So I get that. What I can say in terms of this imprisonment that Kanye talked about in terms of mentally, there are a lot of people who are mentally imprisoned. We live in a blaming generation right now where people are quick to blame history as to why they're not succeeding. And I think that's problematic on many levels. I think at the end of the day, we do live in a country where we can create our own opportunities and do well. Now, that doesn't excuse any systems of institutional racism that seeks to hold us back. I get that. But that's not going to prevent people like Dr. Wendy Osefo from succeeding, who is an immigrant, who works as a professor at one of the leading institutions, who sits on Fox News Channel on air, the #1 cable news network in the country, almost every night. Or myself, who was born into poverty, whose mom was addicted to crack cocaine. But yet and still, here I am having this conversation with you two very distinguished individuals. So I think at the end of the day that we take this into our own hands. Nothing and no one can stop you but yourself.
Wendy, I think, Gianno, you put a strong argument using both your backgrounds is, hey, we're not saying the playing field was equal. We're not saying that we're proud of what happened 150 years ago. But having said that, this is the playing field, and let's be successful. Don't use it as an excuse. How can you say that, Wendy, and not be racially insensitive?
Well, you can say that by also knowing the policies that make it so that there's hurdles that even though we are 150 years removed from slavery, there are still issues that plague people in communities of color and communities that have low socioeconomic backgrounds.